guys, go make yourself a cup of tea. I am having some white tea with red berries today in my Game of Thrones Stark Sigil mug. Because today I wanted to talk to you about Game of Thrones. More specifically, the 8th season of Game of Thrones, the end of Game of Thrones. It's tea time. That's what we're going to talk about today. I am going to be discussing the contents of the last season, so this will contain spoilers. Just a warning, if you haven't seen the last season or the last episode yet, you may want to save this video for later. It has been a season that has stirred up a lot of conversation, controversy. I'd almost say there is even a petition going around to get the producers to just redo the whole season. And besides all of that, I'm just a huge Game of Thrones fan, have been for years, and I wanted to, talk about it. So let me just start by saying I actually enjoyed the last season. I am not disappointed by the way it ended. That being said, I understand why people are disappointed, and I largely agree with everyone saying that it was lazy writing, that the characters deserved more. I have read the books, the Song of Ice and Fire books, and I personally felt a huge difference in the way the show was done between when it was still following the books and when it could no longer follow the books because the story in the show kind of surpassed the events that were in the books. The first few seasons followed the books very closely, and I was actually super impressed by how amazingly well the books were adapted into a TV show, because that not always works. Many movie and TV show adaptations are just really, really bad, or at least do not live up to the power that the book has. Game of Thrones did that amazingly well. They were incredible. The show managed to portray the complexity of the storylines and the characters, and everything was captured so beautifully, paired with amazing visuals and just an incredible cast, and just everything was perfect. One of the main player rules in Dungeons and Dragons is always don't split the party, and I feel like George Martin split the party like as much as he could in like book 4, I guess, so that there were so many storylines, and that was hard to capture even in the books. That's why 2 books, I believe it's 4 and 5, follow the same timeline, just from different perspectives. And I get that at that point it was pretty much impossible to fit everything that was going on into a show. So at that point they started deviating from the books, and that is where I felt like it started to crumble a little bit as soon as, the storyline progressed and there was no more material from the books. That's when things went south, in my opinion. I feel like at a certain point, they just asked George Martin how the story ends, and he told them that this is how it ends. And I feel like they lacked maybe the storytelling skill or, the writing capabilities to get there in the same high quality way that characters had been moving around the world in the previous seasons. So I feel like getting to the end, which in my opinion was great. I feel like all the characters ended up where they were supposed to be. I am very happy with, the events that are the end of the story. I am completely happy with those. I can get behind all of them. But I do feel like getting there was way too rushed. I feel like they could have easily made one entire season that would just lead up to the Battle of Winterfell and the defeat of the Night King, and then another season that would be just all about, going to King's Landing and the whole Daenerys, Cersei and Jon thing. I feel like if they had done that, we would have had much more time to kind of watch the characters develop, have all the pieces fall into place for these final events. Because I do feel like within the show themselves, they kind of came out of nowhere, and pretty much everything that happened in the last 2 episodes was exactly what I expected to happen for a long time. So that's why I was kind of okay with it. But when I think about it now, it doesn't make sense within the show. And I was thinking, oh, I see what they're doing here. And I was thinking about the showmakers. And when a show is good, you don't think about the people who made it. You think about the characters and how everything just falls into place inside the story, which is what always happened. I actually really like the idea of Daenerys turning into the Mad Queen. I feel like in the books, she has been on that road much more clearly than she has in the show. And I was fully expecting that to happen, but I do feel like it was too sudden in the show, and I understand why people are angry at that. I didn't see it as I was watching the episode because I was like, yes, finally, Daenerys has gone mad, but yeah, it wasn't the best writing. It wasn't introduced well. I feel like they just kind of rushed to the end point on a massive budget and not necessarily the skill that was required to make the whole situation believable and realistic, I guess, as the beginning was. Because I feel like that is the biggest strength, or that always was the biggest strength of Game of Thrones, that all the events that took place, they were so intricate and detailed, and everything that happened for reasons and then had other things happen in reaction, and everything was woven so well that it became very realistic, even though it's of course a fantasy world and completely, odd things are happening, but it was realistic because of these things. And they lost that, I feel, after season 5. Season 7, in my opinion, was the worst thing ever. I hated season 7, and I think, honestly, that is why I did enjoy season 8, because season 7 set me up with really low expectations. I was going into this fully expecting it to be horrible, and I was actually pleasantly surprised because I did really like it. I liked the outcome, but when I look back at the seasons before season 7, yes, I can get behind the idea that season 8 wasn't satisfactory either, even though I still think it was better than season 7. The one thing that completely made the whole season, not just the season, this pretty much made the entire show for me, and that is the episode The Long Night, episode 3. I am still just, I don't even know what to say to that. That was the single most amazing thing in television history. It was absolutely incredible. I loved the whole thing from the first second up until the last. It was just amazing. It was incredible. It was incredible. I loved the cinematography. That was just flawless. I loved the writing of that one as well. I really loved the twist. I did not see that one coming, and I saw a lot of it coming, but not that. So I'm very happy about that one because I love Game of Thrones surprising me, but I want them to surprise me in a way that I'm willing to buy. So I definitely bought this. Wasn't as ready to buy, the Mad Queen and then Jon killing her in the way that they presented it. I'm fine with the events, but they had to be introduced in a different way, I feel. And the characters needed more time to get there, and also for us to be emotionally involved in those events. I can also completely get behind Jaime returning to Cersei in the kind of critical moments, but again, it was just so sudden. We need to see why he chose it, In a way, I feel like season 8 was just very cathartic, and a part of me just loves that because it's cathartic, and I was willing to accept it. And then on the other hand, I feel like it could have been done much better on the writing front. That being said, the cinematography for all of this was top notch. It was amazing, incredible, and I feel like this is the best we've seen in television history. The filming was amazing, the CGI is amazing, the fights were amazing, the stuntmen, the actors in general were amazing. Pretty much everything except for maybe the writing and the character development was absolutely perfect. Yeah, I think that also definitely helps to sell the season to me in any case. Oh, this was also probably one of the reasons why I enjoyed this season so much. I watched it with a bunch of friends this time. So we actually organized like screenings and everything. I'd never done that before, but there is a theater in Utrecht in the Netherlands that had screenings every Monday of the new episodes in the theater itself, and they would put like bean bags on the floor and everything, and you would watch it with a couple hundred people. And we went there like 3 times, I think. It was the best thing ever, and we actually ended up watching The Long Night in that theater with all the people. First, when Lyanna Mormont killed the giant, everyone was like, "Ah!" And then when Arya got the Night King, it was literally people were standing up and people were like just like "Ah!" cheering and yelling with excitement. It was amazing. It was very like high energy. It was incredible. Absolutely loved seeing that episode with such a big crowd. People were crying, people were screaming. It was amazing. Totally helped make an amazing episode even more amazing. I am all over this. The Long Night was the best episode of the entire show. The 2 episodes leading up to that, I didn't much care for, and everything that happened after was just like tying off the ends, in my opinion. But for me, I'm gonna remember season 8 as just The Long Night was it. I do also feel though that there are a few things missing, and I can understand that they didn't tie up all loose ends, but I'm kind of sad we never really learned what the deal was with the White Walkers. Like, was their only goal to destroy humankind? I feel like there could have been a better story there. I'm also wondering what happened to all the gods. The Lord of Light is obviously a real god because he actually worked miracles, as well as the many-faced god, and all of those kind of just disappeared. Also, what's beyond the wall now, and why is there a wall, and why is there a Night's Watch? That's kind of... I mean, I'm willing to buy the whole we need a place to send, like, outsiders to, but I feel like, again, that just needs a bit more explaining. It needs a purpose for it to be effective even as a place to outlaw people to. I want to know what happened in the east, in Slaver's Bay. What happened to the Dothraki after Daenerys was killed? What's going on in Dorne? Who was that guy sitting on the council? Oh, also, what happened to Sam? Because I feel like in one scene he is Lord Tarly and then in the next he's a maester, but I'm pretty sure he cannot be both. So there are still a few questions left, but I feel like they ended all the major storylines pretty nicely. And I am satisfied with those. And I am also very happy to just wait for the books to explain all these little details that I'm still wondering about. I guess that is actually my biggest takeaway from this, is now that I know where it's headed and kind of what the finish line is, I am super excited to see how George Martin actually gets his characters to those points, because I know it's gonna be good. I'm satisfied with this outcome. I just need a better kind of way to get there, and I know that George Martin can deliver that. So I'm just really, really excited for the books to come out, and I hope they will come out now that the show is over. I have heard rumors that he's been holding it back, the books, till after the show finale. Oh, another thing that I do wonder about actually is Bran. What is the exact purpose of the three-eyed raven, and why did they put him in a position where he's so involved with people, and how can he rule when he's the three-eyed raven? Because I would expect him to have a different purpose than ruling over people. Also, why would they put someone with so much power on the Iron Throne? No longer exists. Like, why would they make him king? Because we know he can warg, and that just seems like a bad idea to me. But yeah, putting Bran on the throne is something that I had considered as an option, and I feel like it's one of the better possible outcomes. I am glad they didn't put Jon on the throne. I feel like the writers lost Bran. There were a few seasons where his story was super slow. Pretty much when he went beyond the wall, it was just, there was nothing going on with him at all until the Hodor episode, which was traumatic, and I don't even want to talk about that. But yeah, before that, they completely like destroyed his character and made him super uninteresting. And then I believe there's even a season where he isn't mentioned at all, which is super weird. And then suddenly he just comes back, kind of forgotten about him at that point, I feel like, or there isn't enough emotional connection with him at that point. So I feel like that's a wasted opportunity. Oh, I do really like that Brienne is commander of the Kingsguard, and I loved the scene where she finished Jaime's entry. That was really nice. I'm usually not a big fan of... Thank you, dishwasher. I'm usually not a big fan of cheesy things like that, but in this case I was just like, oh yes, finally some justice for Brienne. I really liked the outcome of the Battle of the Cleganes. I feel like that was, again, cathartic. It needed to happen. I'm not quite sure how I feel, again, about the way that they got there, the way that it started and everything, but the end, it was good. But I was Jon killing Daenerys. It was, again, I feel like it was inevitable, but they made it inevitable in the wrong way. Maybe I would have liked to see Jon get to the point where he realizes that it's what he needs to do. I feel like it was too sudden, too quick, but that may just be me personally. I was not involved in their relationship at all. I didn't care for their relationship whatsoever. It has been going on for a few seasons, but I was just like, how did they even fall in love, and why is this a thing? It wasn't real enough for me. I loved Jon and Ygritte together, and I could completely understand how that happened, but Jon and Daenerys just, it felt kind of random and forced. But again, I feel like that is a problem in the writing. But therefore I wasn't as emotionally involved when he ended up killing her as I was when he, killed Ygritte, which was a horrible moment. This was just like, oh yeah, it needed to happen. Yeah, it wasn't nearly as emotional as maybe Daenerys' character had deserved to die. I did love the dragon kind of checking if she's dead. That was very emotional. I loved that part. Did you notice how incredibly Lord of the Rings-ish the whole end was? Like with the burning of the One Throne, and then our small but fierce hero sailing off to the west. Literally, she goes to the west. I feel like that was part cheesy and part I don't even mind because you guys know how I feel about the Lord of the Rings. And I feel like, again, it was executed pretty well, and I'm happy to accept this. I feel like it's a good ending for Arya. I'm honestly not quite sure how I feel about Sansa as Queen in the North. I know this is probably an unpopular opinion, but again, I just don't really see it happening. I don't know why, and why didn't all the other lords protest and try and become independent as well? When she was like, no, North's gonna be independent, but I was like, oh, sure, fine. I'm pretty sure the Riverlands would like to be independent, as would Highgarden and all the other places. I don't know. Although it was, again, very cathartic to see Sansa finally in a good position. It could have been different, could have been much better, but it was alright, and I enjoyed watching it, I enjoyed seeing it, I had a great time, and I'm quite happy with it ending this way. I feel like endings to shows are always kind of hard. This is definitely one of the better endings to a show that I have seen in my life. Oh, speaking of Arya, by the way, I am kind of disappointed that she didn't use her face-changing skills this season. I love those. I think those were some of the most epic moments in Game of Thrones. I have been talking for so long. I really want to know what you guys thought of Game of Thrones and the end of Game of Thrones in season 8 and just everything. So yeah, let's keep on talking in the comments. I'm gonna end the video here. All out of tea. So I hope you enjoyed this little tea time with me, guys. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for loads more beauty and lifestyle content. If you'd like to support me through Patreon or my merch store, there'll be links in the description box below. Thank you so much for your support. There's another video here that I think you might also enjoy. You can go watch next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon in my next video. Bye!